shut out of the international financial system by such threats. Nobody's willing to step on the toes of the master. That's too dangerous. 5 high-level former NATO commanders, including a couple of generals, recently released what they called a new grand strategy that, among other things, identified what they called weapons of finance as acts of war which justify a response, and they made it clear, a nuclear response. Of course, that's when it's directed against us. But cutting Iran out of the global financial system is different. The U.S. is openly engaged in cyber war. The Pentagon has identified cyber war as a threat which justifies the United States to respond with massive force if it's directed against us. But again, the unpeople are different. There's no doubt that the government of Iran is a threat to its own population. Unfortunately, it's hardly alone in that respect, including U.S. allies, and in fact, including the Iranian state when it was backed by the United States. As I'm sure you know, in 1953, the U.S. and Britain intervened to destroy the parliamentary system in Iran and impose the Shah, a brutal tyrant, who was a very severe threat to his own population, but that was okay. He was our tyrant. Iran hasn't invaded anyone in hundreds of years, with one exception. In the 1970s, under the Shah and with the support of the United States, conquered a couple of Arab islands in the Gulf. That's still a topic of concern and dispute among the Gulf states, but that's its sole act of aggression for hundreds of years. It does have a nuclear enrichment program that was instituted by the Shah with the strong support and initiative of the U.S. government. Henry Kissinger, Donald Rumsfeld, Paul Wolfowitz, Dick Cheney, pressing Iran to develop nuclear weapons. Those of you who were at MIT in the 1970s may remember it caused a scandal at MIT. MIT, in effect, was pressured to essentially sell the nuclear engineering department to Iran. Iran would listen to the Shah, give a lot of money, and the United States would, MIT would train nuclear engineers, including some of the ones who are running the program now. A very interesting development took place. There was an enormous student protest, leading finally to a referendum, student referendum, in which about 80% of the students were opposed. It was a big enough issue so that a separate faculty meeting was called. Nobody goes to faculty meetings. They're much too boring. People reading committee reports and things, but everyone showed up at that meeting because we had to decide what to do, and there was a very lively discussion. And it was supported by about probably 80% of the faculty. Actually, I think there were about 5 of us who opposed it, which was kind of interesting because the faculty of today are the students of yesterday. But just that change in institutional affiliation completely changed attitudes in a very radical fashion, which is not uninteresting in itself. So there were these programs of nuclear enrichment. But what actually is the threat of Iran? There's a ton of references to it, but very few explanations. However, there is an authoritative answer that comes from the Pentagon and U.S. intelligence. They present reports to Congress every year on global security, and of course covers Iran. And what they point out is interesting. They say Iran has essentially no offensive military capacity, has very low military expenditures, even by the standards of the region. It has a strategic doctrine which is defensive. It's forces deployed to try to block an invasion long enough for diplomacy to set in. And they say that if Iran would develop nuclear weapons, that would be part of their deterrent strategy. And that's the threat. The threat is that they might be able to deter the free use of force by the United States and its allies. And that's an intolerable threat. Kind of a sub-threat is that they try to destabilize the region, and that's spelled out. They're trying to increase their influence in neighboring countries, Iraq and Afghanistan, and that's destabilizing. If the United States invades and destroys the country, that's called stabilizing, bringing stability. But this is incidentally across the border. A couple of days ago was the anniversary of what's called in the West 9/11. In Latin America, it's called the second 9/11, because there was a much worse 9/11 in 1973, when the U.S. essentially installed the Pinochet dictatorship in Chile. And by any dimension, that was much worse than what happened in what we call 9/11. And it was discussed, of course. One of the major liberal international affairs specialists, editor of Foreign Affairs, said it was regrettable, but it was necessary to destabilize Chile in order to achieve stability. That sounds like a contradiction, but if you've got a good education, a PhD in international relations and so on, you can understand it's not a contradiction. We had to overthrow the government and install a dictatorship, murder lots of people and so on, because we had to impose stability, which has a technical meaning. It means conformity to U.S. demands. And again, Europe goes along with this quite happily. This interpretation of the Iranian threat is also echoed, almost the same words, by the top Israeli strategic analysts, if you look at it. So yes, it's a real threat. Actually, there's a remedy for this that was formulated repeatedly by the UN Security Council. The most recent report, Security Council report on Iranian nuclear weapons, it's June 2010. It opens by calling, I'm quoting, calling for a solution to the Iranian nuclear issue that would contribute to global non-proliferation efforts and to realizing the objective of a Middle East free of weapons of mass destruction, including their means of delivery. Well, that'd be a simple solution. Just